welcome everyone. This is our weekly ARC Hangout. So for those of you who may have not heard, hopefully you have though, we have joining with us today our National Vice President, Sarah Takatatsu, and our National President, Aaron Conti here. So if you have any questions for them about their journey through schooling or with AIAS or any questions about AIAS in general, do feel free to put them in the chat. Our exec board has prepared a nice, lovely list of questions as well. So don't worry, we will get that content rolling no matter what. But to start off, if each of you would just like to talk a little bit and introduce yourself and maybe even your role as the national officers.
Sure. Yeah, we can kind of gear up and lead up to the president. I'll start. I'm Sarah, the VP. Let's see, a little bit about me. So I did my undergraduate degree at the University of Colorado Boulder, where I got a degree in environmental design. So a little bit of a multidisciplinary background with planning and landscape architecture and what was called design studies as well. So I think mostly product design, but definitely emphasized in architecture, and then went into a job straight out of school in the Boulder area and then in Colorado, and then came out to DC for the job that I now hold for the year, which has been a wild ride this year. Not what we expected, not what any of us expected, but happy to be in the places that we are at in the moment. It's been a really exciting time to kind of see what's possible in these virtual times, including this panel discussion. So really excited to be here. So some of the roles and responsibilities of the vice president include a lot of membership relations, kind of quad director, but on a different scale across the world, really, helping out with membership questions. And I get the lovely pleasure of being in charge of all things Membership Month, which has been so much fun, which we're, if you didn't know, right in the middle of Membership Month. Plug there, follow the Instagram, AIS.org. Always a pleasure. And then on some of the other roles and responsibilities, the vice president serves as the secretary for the organization. So at all the board meetings and the council of presidents meetings, I'm typing away, writing the official minutes for all the meetings, which is actually really exciting and a great way to kind of download the information into your brain really quickly, if anyone is interested in that. And I also serve as the treasurer for the organization. So a lot of fun banking stuff. And with those roles, I also get to chair the finance committee as well as the membership committee. So get to be part of some really cool discussions and on the cutting edge of what's next for the AIS, money-wise and membership-wise, which is always so important. Some of the fundamentals of AIS, which is why they're standing committees, of course. And then I also serve on the ACSA board of directors as the student director. So channeling all this information that I have about students and where everyone's at right now to the best of my abilities. Definitely rely on experiences of all of you all. So, keep them coming. Let your chapter presidents know, reach out directly if anything is, of course, really pertinent to your experience right now, because that's what we're talking about all the time. So get to channel that and be an advocate for student issues in those realms as well, kind of outward facing, but on the education membership front as well. So it's kind of a high level overview of some of the things that I'm doing on the day to day. And with that, I'll pass it to you, Madam President.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Madam Vice President. How do I follow that? That was great. I guess where I got my start, I did my undergraduate degree at Keene State College in New Hampshire. You've probably never heard of it, and that's okay. I got a Bachelor of Science in Architecture, and I knew I wanted to be able to get licensed. So I decided to go to grad school immediately, graduating from Keene, and got my Master of Architecture this past spring from the Illinois Institute of Technology. But Keene State's really where I got my start in AIS, joined that chapter, and served on just about every position on the board there, serving as president in my 4th year. But conferences was really what got me started. I went to Forum in Nashville in 2014, and that kind of opened my eyes to what the AIS is and what it's all about. So just kind of continued on that path, started serving on committees, which is what introduced me to AIS on the national level. So then during my second year, my final year of my graduate degree, I served as the Midwest Quad Director before running for president. And here I am. I know it's super cheesy and you hear it every year, the officers saying it really is a dream job. It's super exciting. So just moved out to DC to serve in this role. We're not really in the office all that much, still trying to stay safe. But it's still so great to be in DC and be working with the team. I guess a bit of what the president does. It's a little more outward facing, we say, just being that the vice president is a lot of internal with membership and stuff like that, but the president is kind of the outward face to the collaterals. Like Sarah said, advocating on your behalf, we both have that role. The president is more within the profession regarding the AIA and NCARB, so serving on the AIA Strategic Council, actually immediately after being elected. So even before you start your term as president, you're serving with the AIA Strategic Council for a year and then rolling on to the AIA Board of Directors, which I will soon be doing by December, I believe. So then you also serve as the past president, continuing on the AIA board. So a little bit longer of a stint with the AIS than the vice president, but kind of day to day doing a lot of work with our programs and events. Freedom by Design, the president typically has a big hand in serving on the Freedom by Design Advisory Committee. One of my favorite parts of the job, the president actually gets to facilitate all of the committees, decide what they are and what their charges are and sort them, and it's super exciting. But one of the bigger jobs too is the president is the chair of the board of directors as well as the council of presidents. So kind of have to be into being a parliamentarian, which was interesting to learn, but I'm a big governance nerd, as I know some people have served on the governance committee with me before know. So getting to facilitate and run those meetings while the vice president is diligently taking notes that I will then refer back to because I will definitely forget half of what we talked about as it flies by. But yeah, it's super fun. It's such a great job being an officer. We like to say that we're co-presidents a lot of the time because we do a lot of work together. It's a lot of collaboration. So it's a lot of fun. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Awesome. So now that we know a little bit about you, we're going to go in kind of a order of a little bit about you, more specifically, you with your journey with AIS and then just AIS in general. So starting off, what was the hardest part of your architectural schooling and how did you overcome it?
Ooh, can I start on this one? Let's see. So the hardest part was absolutely first year coming in and just not having any skills whatsoever and being expected to, start out with studio right away and just kind of hit the ground running. Absolutely the hardest part. And it's an embarrassing part of my story, but also I don't know why I talk about it so much, but I do. I started out and I was completely engulfed in oh my gosh, studio is overwhelming. And, I've got to spend all my time focusing on studio. How do these other kids have any time for what is that thing called AIAS? No, this is got to focus on studio because I am overwhelmed. And that was absolutely the hardest part. But by the end of the first semester, it was pretty clear that the students who had joined AIS were in a much better place, maybe emotionally, but definitely professionally, and just how they were approaching their schoolwork and had balance in their lives and, had chances to, tour different firms and just had a better sense of the field overall. And had community, and I was like, well, I'm clearly missing out, and I had a tough run as just focusing on school, and so that's actually what really pushed me into taking the first step with AIS. So hardest part, studio first semester, and then the solution was definitely getting involved, creating a community, and getting in there with AIS, because that absolutely helps kind of get your bearings of what's normal and who do I ask for what and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I think for me, it was the hardest part at first, but kind of where I feel pretty strong currently. Time management. I'm kind of a person who says yes to absolutely everything. So I was going, bless you, sorry, was going through studio for the first time and also working a part-time job and other extracurriculars. I was in an a cappella group in undergrad, random, and served as an orientation leader and then AIAS, and it was a lot. But it really helped me learn how to prioritize my time and kind of helped me learn to say no. I'm not super good at that, Sarah can tell you, but it's a work in progress constantly, but definitely time management. And being able to balance a lot of things all at one time, which is helpful in my job now.
Awesome. Great answers. Kind of building off of that, if you could give one piece of advice to past you, what would it be?
My default one, which I'll do two, because my default one is, I would tell myself to get involved with AIAS earlier. Goodness, what was she doing? She was not focused on the right things, apparently. Let's see, what's another piece of advice that being unafraid to ask for help from students in years above me. Definitely kind of put my head down and, focused on, I know these people who are going through this with me, but the community in your program is, full of people who have been exactly where you are right now, and reaching out and getting help from people who have gone through it before. Don't be afraid to make that leap and make that connection to someone who's, a year ahead of you or something like that. It's definitely, that would have, if I had taken that advice earlier on, that would have helped me a lot. And they probably would have told me to join AIS. It's funny how that comes back around.
Yeah, not intentional at all. It all ties in. No, I was going to say that actually, but another one I have is trust yourself is what I would tell my past self. Whether it's in studio or at work, first internship or in AIS, I think I would tell myself, what you're doing more than you think you do. I'm someone who, I have to get a ton of opinions before I will make a decision or, make a call. But in the end, really, if I had just gone with my gut, everything would have been fine. So it seems daunting at times, but if you're working hard and you're super engaged all the time, what you're doing and you can trust yourself to make the right choices.
Awesome. Well, final question that's just a tip or a advice is, what is your strongest tips for being better at leadership, design, and service? I hope that list rings some bells.
Could it be our mission statement as the AI? What? Who is this man? Where did these questions come from? Fantastic. I mean, besides the obvious of joining the AIS, whose mission statement is, as previously stated, that piece of advice, also going to sound cliche, but if you haven't heard, we were talking a lot about taking action this year, and absolutely, thinking about what taking action looks like for you right now as an individual member, as an individual student. I think diving into where you're at, being honest with yourself and saying, what does taking action look like for me right now? Does taking action mean becoming a member for the first time? Because that's huge. That's a huge step in moving forward and advancing leadership, design, and service. And maybe it's, I'm in the AIS, but my take action is that I need to run for a leadership position, or my take action is that I need to reach out and be better at doing service work, or I need to, reach out to my peers, take action in reaching out and asking how they're doing. That can mean whatever it means to you personally, but it takes a lot of self-reflection to take action. So that's my tip, is take action and think about what that means where you're at right now.
Yeah, mine kind of branches off of Sarah's answer, which would be to try new things. So, whether it is stepping up and going for a leadership position, or volunteering, or, trying something outside of the box you normally would in studio. I'm so sorry. That's my cat. Her name's Meow. She says hi. I'm sorry. But But yeah, just trying something new, not being afraid to branch out. She distracted me, so that's gonna finish my answer.
No worries. We all love Meow here. So getting to know a little bit more about your AIS journey specifically, how long have you been with the AIAS as a program? And what's been the most influential part about your AIS journey?
I'll go first. Okay. I'm going on my 6th year being involved with the AIS, but also feels like it was just yesterday that I started. Wow. Most influential part. I think it was running for quad director and losing. So for those who don't know, I ran for quad director in, gosh, what year is it? 2016, Boston Forum, ran for Northeast quad director and did not get it. But I think that was something that I needed to happen. It was a really humbling experience, but even going through the election process and not winning, it was incredible. And I gained so many friends and mentors, and it really helped me see the AIS in a whole new light. And just kind of taught me that, sometimes if you're trying to go for something and it doesn't happen the way you think, it doesn't mean it'll never happen. I mean, here I am. I've kind of learned that everyone is where they're meant to be at the right time. So yeah, I would say that's my answer.
I had to laugh because that was very similar to my answer, which we'll get to. So this is my 5th year, going on 5th year. It's a little hazy there because I, started at a weird time my freshman year. What was she doing? But fifth year here in the AIS, and have loved the whole journey. But the most influential part, absolutely for me as well, was running for quad director and losing. And it sounds super negative, but it was actually like such a huge, just spike in understanding who I was and what I felt was important to me. When many of like stepping out of your comfort zone and putting yourself out there and, running for a leadership position is really, really hard. It challenges, what you expect of yourself and what you think other people are going to perceive in you. Like it's hard to put yourself out there. And I think when you run for quad director too, you're really expecting to put 110% into the job that you're, hopefully going to get elected to. And so you put a lot of pressure on yourself. But then when you lose, you have the conversation with yourself of like, was I not enough? And that's definitely not the case, right? That's never the case. You are absolutely enough, and you are absolutely, where you're supposed to be when you're there, as Erin said. And, listening to the membership and what the members want is always the right choice, because it's, channeling the needs at the time. And so losing was definitely a moment where I got to reflect on, maybe there's a few skills that I want to work on. I think giving those speeches at the beginning of the election process was like, that's a skill I could work on, public speaking. But then also, what I really valued and the feedback that I got from members who I talked to was X, Y, and Z. And I want to dive into that and understand that more. But then also, getting to be really excited about the fact that, I can appreciate in myself that I did that and I lost, and I can still look at myself in the mirror and say, I'm super proud of that person. So it challenges like the very fundamentals of like why you're doing the things that you're doing, and leadership, design, and service are kind of the bedrock principles of why we're all here. And as Meow knows, of course, this is the important things that we like to think about. And so absolutely running and losing, and then getting to serve again, that definitely informed how I've served as an officer and as a quad director too, for sure.
Awesome. So now I hope everyone here is probably going to be running for quad director. But before all of that, who encouraged you, if anyone, to get involved with AIAS or to further your involvement with AIAS? And what advice did they give you?
there's like such a long list of people. Oh my goodness. I mean, the very first person to get me involved with AIS at all was my orientation leader, my first year at Keene State. At that point, our orientation groups are sorted by major. So, and he was the president of our AIS chapter, which at the time was only known as the Architecture Club. And he told all of us first years, hey, you should come to this meeting we're going to have in like the first week of classes, and you should sign up for this thing. It looks great on your resume. And that was all I needed to hear. And I was like, cool. I was that kid. I was just like, oh yeah, I want to build a strong resume starting right out the gate in college. And then that was when I got the opportunity to attend Forum. And so it became so much more, hello. And I guess I gained, I'm so sorry, a number of mentors through that. It's a lot of past officers and quad directors. Clayton Dare was a past Northeast quad director, really encouraged me to go for it for the first time. And Amy Rosen and Sarah Walgren and Sarah Curry as well. So there's so many people who you're able to connect with that can, just a shoulder tap can do so much.
Oh yeah. So the first person who encouraged me to get involved was the one that I was like, what are you talking about? I got work to do. Was someone who became, actually it was a couple of people who became like my best friends. And they were the Aarons who were like, oh yeah, I'm getting involved first day, orientation for class. And they were organizing a firm tour specifically for the first years as first year students themselves, because they were go-getters and were awesome at what they were doing. Yeah, they were the ones that I was like, who are these people? And then became my best friends after realizing, how awesome the AIAS was. And they are absolutely still my inspirations for, like when you have those friends who are just like so good at life, and you're like, I'm so glad we're friends because like I aspire to be you every day. Absolutely, those were the first ones who got me to see the value and to join. And then also big shout out to the previous West Quad director, Dom Armendariz. He was the one who shoulder tapped me to run for West Quad director. I had no intention, not because I wasn't passionate about it, but I was really in the whole chapter leadership thing and really focused on, the challenges that my chapter was going through. And then getting the shoulder tap and like, hey, all these issues and all these challenges that you're facing at your chapter, like other chapters are, trying to find the answers to these things too. And I think you like have insight into that. And like, me? What? Me? And so Dom was the first one to like say, like, that's a valuable asset. That passion, that drive is like something that you shouldn't just keep at your chapter. You should share with more people. So, it's that shoulder tap and that realization like, oh yes, maybe I could try this thing. So I think that's something that we can all do better at. People who aren't involved in the AIAS, shoulder tapping and saying, hey, I see something in you that, I think that you would be awesome. And, your voice is super valuable. And that would be a great addition to this thing that we're doing right now. That's always true, no matter what, right? Like we all have something really valuable to bring to the table.
Yeah, you touched on this, Sarah. I kind of have a part two, if you don't mind. Another big influence, just the co-members of my board and of my chapter. No one from my school had really run for a national position before. And so when I first said I wanted to, I was like, hey, I'm going to do this thing. They were nothing but supportive, even though some people thought it was a little crazy. Just having people by my side through the whole process, especially it being in Boston and so close to my school. The first time I ran, so many of our chapter members were able to go, and just having that support system right next to you, super, super helpful, and just can mean the world when you need it most.
Awesome. So now y'all got to hear a little bit about the networking opportunities. But aside from leaders that tapped on you, or maybe even leaders that you've had the opportunity to tap on, how has AIAS broadened your personal networking capabilities and the individuals you've been able to contact and communicate with?
Oh yeah. I mean, what does not influence your ability to become a better like networker / like just build this community? I mean, quad conferences, forum, just being on a Slack with your, local chapter, and then being able to, have chances to communicate with people at your school that you wouldn't otherwise communicate with. Being an advocate for students to your faculty as, an AIAS representative, being someone who advocates for your chapter, to your quad director, being a quad director, getting to talk to a bunch of different chapters. And now, being vice president, getting to sit on these national boards for other professional organizations and getting to be part of the conversation as we think about what the field looks like moving forward in a pandemic. And I mean, every step of the way, it's only ever been about people. And it's only really ever been about this community of students specifically, because we are the next generation of designers. This is the foundation of the profession, and you have to talk to everyone, and people's voices need to be heard. So even the opportunities to talk to people, it has definitely broadened my understanding of networking, which is really just like having friends all over, which you definitely get to do if you're, involved in the AIAS, absolutely. But it also definitely brings up questions for me of like, who are we talking to? Who has a voice at the table, and who are we reaching out to, and who are we shoulder tapping to get involved? Because, if we're just being an echo chamber of our own voices, we're not actually advancing the future of the career in the profession. So absolutely. And it's an experience of networking, but then also getting the chance to question it and try to move it forward on a daily basis. And I think that, touches on challenging your own perceptions of others, challenging your biases, and trying to talk to people who don't have the same experiences as you. As easy as the AIS can make it, it can also be a point where you can challenge yourself and step out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I mean, plus like 1,000 to all of that. Sarah hit so much of it, and I don't want to just repeat everything she said. But I feel like the AIS has shown me just a lot of different ways to network, and sometimes you're networking even when you don't think you're networking. So like being on committees and attending conferences, just meeting so many different people, so many different students across the globe at this point. It's so insane. And just kind of, every moment really is a chance to meet someone new. And even within, our roles, being able to serve on the collateral boards, super exciting, and getting a chance to speak on your behalf and meet so many professionals. And just within your chapter, if you're hosting events or, doing firm tours, things like that, there's always an opportunity to meet professionals or meet other students, either in architecture and AIS or in other fields, and just connect with similar passions.
Awesome. And kind of briefly plugging in some of our own members really quick. We do have 3 members who are on national committees and will be getting the opportunity to network. So feel free to reach out to them as well to further your own networking opportunities through our own chapter and our own AIAS. But going on to the next one, as we kind of start to talk a little bit more about AIAS in general, or just the professions. But what have you been able to learn about the profession before actually entering it from AIAS? And what are some of the more valuable practice-related skills that AIAS has helped you develop?
Ooh, I guess a big one for me that the AIAS showed me that I didn't really get in school was just that there's so much you can do with a degree in architecture, and it doesn't have to just lead to becoming a licensed architect. There's not just one path. You don't have to, go through school, get the degree, get the hours, take the tests. You're a licensed architect. You can do so many different things, either within the profession of architecture or outside it, and just having that design thinking mind is super beneficial in so many different areas, in so many different places. And So the AIAS just exposed me to so many different leaders and people and designers doing so many different things that you wouldn't think they had a degree in architecture. It's so crazy. So that's probably the biggest one for me.
Yes, I would say the same thing if she hadn't already said it. So thank you, Erin, for checking that box, because that one is definitely one that meant a lot to me through my personal kind of career path that's, still kind of at its beginning stages, but, just that knowledge of, architecture and this education is an open door, and it's the first step into kind of the rest of your life, because we're all really passionate people. That's definitely a through line as students, and then into the profession too. Like, we're all super, super passionate about this thing called design, and what that means for people, and what that means for aesthetics, and what that means for service, and all of that fun stuff. Like, it's all tied together in this, wonderful bow of a network of people who are just really passionate. But something else professional, let's see, I really learned a lot about firm culture and what kind of firm I was looking to go into. Right after graduation, I went directly into a small to medium-sized firm locally in Boulder. And I knew that was a good decision for me at the time, because I had had so much exposure to so many different types of firms through the AIAS, and talking to professionals and getting to know the local community. The chapter that I was at CU Boulder was really heavy on the professional development side, mostly because that was kind of a gap that we had in the school itself. And so the AIS filled it really well. So we had lots of opportunities to talk to local professionals and build that community in Boulder. And so that was really helpful, because I kind of got a sense of the lay of the land. And so it really helped me kind of make that first job decision, and knowing that, personally, I wasn't really looking for the big firm experience right out of the gate for me. And I wanted to kind of have a chance to work at a firm that did a variety of different types of projects. And so I got to work on residential, mixed use, commercial, and get to see like almost every single stage of the projects as well, just because of the size of the firm. I knew that's what I wanted, and that's only because I had exposure through the AIS. So that one's super direct and super specific to me, but along with Erin's, that was definitely a skill. I guess you could call it a skill, or just like a level of understanding of what things kind of looked like in that local arena. And I think the AIS is really good about, exposing us to the national arena too, and getting trends of like what's happening in the profession, but also a chance for you to network locally.
All right. It looks like I might have actually skipped a question on my list. So we're going to go back to one that's a little bit more involved about you specifically in AIS. But what national committees have you been involved in, or just what national programs have you helped out developing?
I'll jump in this one really quick. Let's see. So moving forward this year, as I mentioned, getting to chair the membership and the finance committee. So excited about both of those. It's going to be a blast. And so that's really exciting. But things that I have been involved in the past, last year as the West Quad director, I got to liaison 2 committees. One was the finance committee, which worked out really well. So have a little bit of historical knowledge on that one. But that was really awesome. We worked a lot on the national audit that happens every other year to kind of look at our finances. We have an outside audit firm look at our stuff. And so getting to have visibility into what that firm was doing for us and what we were paying them to do. And also looking at creating content around the So You're the Treasurer, which you can still find on the website. It's a great resource if you're the treasurer or you're just interested in chapter finances and what that's all supposed to look like. But creating valuable content for chapters to be able to use. As I said, my original, wanting to become a quad director because, there's challenges that my chapter was facing, but a bunch of other chapters were facing it too. Now, having the chance to create those resources to fill those gaps for chapters across the the country and across the world, that's like really fulfilling work as the finance committee specifically. And then also had the chance to liaison for the Health and Wellness Committee, talking a lot about, what does it mean to be healthy and well as an architecture student, which can mean a lot of different things at different times of the year and different times of the day. And so creating content, especially on social media, and even at Forum, we created a huge 6-foot banner of a community involvement of take a Sharpie, write down ways that you stay healthy and well in all of these different categories, and expanding that understanding of what healthy and well means in finances, personal, spiritual, these definitions of being healthy in your body, but also in your mind. And all these things are, things we gotta talk about as architecture students, and it's all really relevant. So that was a couple of the experiences I've had that have been really awesome and warm and fuzzy.
That's so great. I love just hearing everyone's stories. I hadn't heard all of that. I've been in and around the committees for a while now, about 5 years since my second year. The first committee I was ever a part of doesn't exist anymore. It was the elections committee. So at that time, members made up an elections committee that had a hand in how they were run at Forum. So doing a lot of the facilitating, but we, with technology, we're not needed anymore. So that committee sadly doesn't exist. But that was kind of my first jump into serving on committees. So after that, I served on the Freedom by Design Advisory Group before it was a standing committee for 2 years, so 2016-17 and 2017-18. And that was the year that we kind of expanded the scope of Freedom by Design. So looking at it beyond design build and other ways you can engage with your community, which is going to be really important this year as, being that schools are virtual and all the social distancing and, still being able to do acts of service, but keeping safe. So that knowledge is really helping me this year. After that, I served as the chair of the Equity and Diversity Task Force. And then this past year as Midwest Quad Director, I got to be liaison for the Governance Committee and for the Council of Global Representatives. And we did a lot of work on all three of those committees. A lot of advocacy work with the Advocacy Instagram and Advocacy Month, and the model bylaws this past year with governance. Council of Global Representatives has kind of expanded, and we started doing a lot of different engagement events like Coffee with the Council. If anyone's heard of that, it'll be making a comeback this year. But so this year, of course, as I mentioned, as president, I have a hand in all of the committees, which is really exciting, and kind of created some new ones, which is awesome. But I will be this year serving as a member of the Governance Committee, and will be a liaison to the Freedom by Design Advisory Committee, the Council of Global Representatives, and the Ethics Committee. So if you're looking for any info on committees, come talk to me. I could talk about it all day long.
All right. Awesome. Again, if you, I think committees have already passed for this year in signing up, but keep in mind some of these for next year. We are slowly building our amount of members that are on committees, so we might see a KU takeover eventually. So going on, a little bit more generic, right off the bat, just the first thing that comes to your mind, what is the biggest perk that comes with being an AIAS member?
We've already said it, but I was going to say networking, and just it's beyond just professionally, but this is going to be really cheesy, but the AIAS really has become my family. Going to 2 different schools and moving away from home, the AIAS has kind of always been there, even when, friendships from school kind of faded away. Just the AIAS has always been there. So just kind of having a family and a community of people who feel so passionately about the same things that you do, and that you can lean on and get advice from. Yeah, I would say that's the biggest perk by far.
Not to sound like a broken record, but yes, community, that was my first thing that came to my mind. So I'm not going to change it because Erin said it already. Staying true. Absolutely, community. Of course, there's so many benefits, competitions and chances to serve as the crit editorial team, or planning quad conferences, and all of these things that you are eligible to do as a member are really, really valuable membership benefits. But I think we all know, especially in architecture, like we've got to stick together, and having not only your local chapter network, but a national network, an international network of students going through similar things, and thereby being the entire community that really pushes the profession forward as we all graduate and become young professionals, emerging professionals, and shaping the profession. Absolutely, community is the most important part of it for me.
Awesome. So this next one might require a short story to answer, but as an AIAS member, how has being a part of that looked on a resume, or how have firms reacted to you being involved with AIAS, or maybe other people that you've heard of?
Ooh, I can jump in. Absolutely. I've heard explicitly from a few firms that they said they look for students who have had AIAS leadership experience. They just straight out the gate, like, this is what we're looking for, because we've had really good experiences with these students, and we know that means that they have a certain level of accountability, they have a certain skill set, and all of these things that you can't always see in a portfolio. So that's a big one. But let's see. A couple of my stories are more like, as soon as they see AIAS, the person interviewing me, or like a person who I'm talking to generally, they just like start going in on their own story in AIAS, because we have like a huge alumni network, and a bunch of professionals like were involved in AIAS, and it's really funny how many people you'll run into in the profession who are like, oh yeah, I was my chapter's secretary, I did that, or I remember Forum blah 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 in blah 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 year, and they just like go in on their stories, and you're like, oh, okay, cool, like AIAS too. And it's been really funny as a way to kind of like turn the table, and they like get to talk about themselves. It's really fun to kind of feel both bonded, and also like, did I like trigger some like long lost memory that you had? Like, I'm not sure if this is a good thing. Like, do you feel young again? Do you feel old? I don't know, but it's definitely a connection point and a conversation starter for sure.
Yeah, I would agree with Sarah. Regardless of having the leadership position or not, I've been told and, experienced in an interview, just having AIAS, or even if it's another organization that you're a part of, on your resume, just seeing that you went beyond just going to class can be huge, and you have a different specific skill set, and time management, mentioned that earlier. My kind of funny story is my most recent internship that I worked at was not for an architecture firm, it was for a lighting design and theater planning firm. So kind of, a lot of consulting, and I was an intern on the lighting design side. And so after I was elected national president, and, kind of had to give my notice that I wouldn't be coming back after I graduated, they told me, I found out that a past national president had also worked at this theater planning firm. Charlie Kletcha, 2014-15 national president, had also worked there. So it was just like a weird connection, and people not even directly involved in architecture. None of the principals went to architecture school, but they had that AIAS connection, because, like I said, you can go beyond working as an architect, and two presidents apparently have worked in theater planning and lighting design. So that was just really cool to find out that they supported the organization, even though they weren't directly, related to architectural design.
Awesome. So as we begin to wrap up this session, which has been amazing and super insightful, what are some of the ways that AIAS can make a student stand out, whether it is on the resume or just in conversation with maybe talking about portfolios or anything along those lines.
Ooh, okay, yes. So here's a fun one. Our design competitions that we have, usually at least one rolling all the time. If you can, say like, hey, this project won an award because it was, part of this AIAS competition. Like, we have real cash prizes for those. But being able to say that your project, was acclaimed at, by the AIAS is really awesome and really helpful. So that's a really clear one. And usually our competitions kind of align, our in-studio competitions align with stuff that you've already done in studio. So it's no extra work usually to submit for those. So that's one, a plug for our competitions, because they're awesome, and who doesn't want free money for work that you've already done. But that definitely is a great way to stand out. There's so many more, but that was the first one that came to mind because it's a fun one that we don't always talk about.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways, outside of just like a leadership path that you can stand out in the AIS through competitions, or, if you like writing and editing and interested in publishing, writing for the Crit Journal, or being on the editorial team. I'm so sorry, she's so distracting. Competitions are a great way to elevate your design, and also, it's not even if you don't win, it's kind of encouraging you to put your work out there. For the AIS competitions in particular, you have to submit by posting on social media. And we also have our honor awards that you can submit for every year. You can nominate yourself, nominate someone else at your chapter. There's awards for, local AIA components or faculty. So beyond just becoming a leader within the AIS, there's a lot of ways that you can just elevate what you're already doing, and, kind of make it that way.
Awesome. So this next one we've kind of already touched on with committees and involvement, but other than those, are there any other ways that members of the general chapter can get involved with nationals?
Yeah, there's definitely ways, and we love to promote them. Well, for one, this is a sneak preview. We haven't talked about this too much publicly, but at the end of the month, for the end of membership month, we'll be rounding it out with an AIS town hall meeting. And so that's going to be open for all AIS members to be able to listen to and talk about the things that they want to talk about and highlight, or, challenges that they're seeing in the AIS or in school. So we're opening it up as a AIS-wide town hall. So that is happening at the end of September. Erin, you might have to remind me on the date. Is that the 26th? Either way, be on the lookout. Yep, I got it. Yay. The 26th, there will be information coming out about that. So that's one way to directly get your voice heard. And of course, committees, and there's programs and competitions, and so much content being put out on social media and on the website. There's always so much to engage with. And we have our advocates program, which is something that members can apply for every year. And just so many things happening all the time. But, if you're just kind of looking for your day-to-day, how do I get involved? Absolutely, just to remember to value your voice and your experiences and to share them. Sometimes that'll be directly to your chapter president. It might be directly to your quad director. It might be directly to, the FBD advisory committee. It might be directly to someone at a national level. We love that. Erin and I can attest to how much we love getting emails and Slack messages and text messages from members directly talking about, like, hey, this is an awesome thing that I experienced, or hey, this is a challenge that I'm experiencing. We're, like we said, community is number one, and we love hearing from everyone. So absolutely, remember to value your experiences and your voice, and know that we're always here to listen. If you want to have a platform to share them, we have chances, if you like to write, you have work that you've researched or that you just are passionate about talking about, we have the Crit Journal, where we love to, publish student voice. So that's another place if you're interested in more academic work or, just sharing written experiences. Absolutely, just sharing. And it starts with like valuing where you're at and your experiences, because we value it.
Yeah, I won't sit and repeat everything that Sarah just said, but basically to sum that all up, there is something for everyone within the AIS, no matter what your interest is. There's definitely something for you, whether it's attending an event or being part of a program or, applying for committees or, anything like that. But on, I guess, just more like a personal level, you can connect with any board member at any time. We're all on Slack. If you're not in the Midwest Quad Slack, you can get on there and connect with members from other chapters, and all the quad directors are in every workspace. The officers are in every workspace. And we're also all on social media. We have the national Instagrams, and we also have the quad and region Instagrams as well, and our personal. So, just reach out, send a Slack message or an email or a DM, whatever works for you. We're here and we want to hear from you.
Oh yeah, I'm going to plug one more time the AIS org Instagram. I mean, there's so many. There's the advocacy AIS. There's all the AIS Instagram accounts, but the national account, the story is always chock full of fun stuff. Just yesterday, we posted a swag giveaway, where if you answer all three questions right, then you're automatically entered into winning some swag. So just keeping an eye out on social media. There's always stuff being pushed out there talking about opportunities and just random things like a pop quiz for free swag. So definitely a plug there. Just a way to kind of be reminded, because we all get super busy throughout the year. And I know Instagram was like my zone out time from studio. So I don't know how you all zone out, but Instagram was mine. And if you can see kind of what we're up to on Instagram, that's always a helpful reminder. So just a plug there. Also, the VP I have my own Instagram account, which I've been trying to use more. So that's there too. But there's so many. Also, follow other chapters' Instagram accounts. That's a fun way to get ideas about what other people are up to as well.
All right. With the last few minutes we have left, if anyone has questions that they would like to ask, feel free. Or if you want to put it in the chat, you can also put it down there. Questions? Oh, you can go.
Okay, so if we become members, I'm a freshman this year, like what would we be doing? Like, I know you mentioned like design competitions and such. What other things would we do like for AIAS? Would we like have like monthly meetings? Like, what does it look like as like a freshman student, like, or like any student like in school being like a member in leadership, like with that too?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It looks a little different at every chapter, so always be on the lookout for what kinds of meetings and events your chapter is putting on. In terms of a national level involvement, there's kind of always something going on, so like the competitions and submitting for our different programs. There's also being able to connect through Slack and all of that. We also have a number of events coming up this year that will look a bit different than some people might remember, but we have the Quad Conference coming up very quickly, actually. Registration is open, and it's only $30, Bowling Green State University, so that's going to be a great way to connect with other students in the Quad right off the bat, and kind of hear from some professionals and different tracks, and I don't know entirely what they have planned, but they're working really hard. And then Forum will be coming up too in January now. It will be January 5th through 8th. And so, also being virtual this year, it's a great opportunity to connect with the organization nationally. So yeah, there's a lot of different levels of ways you can get involved. So follow your own chapter and the national on Instagram, and always stay up to date.
Nothing to
So-
add to that. That's the answer right there. There's so many ways. Sometimes it can get a little you can get over involved. That's definitely a thing. So like pace yourself, do what's good for you, but definitely stay in touch with what's going on locally, and then, you know, keep an eye on national stuff as you wish.
And just to speak with general body meetings, this is a great opportunity for us to plug ours. They will be happening at the last Wednesday of every month, except for November, which will be happening mid, just so that you guys have time to work on your final presentations. Since I know these can be quite stressful times. So, but yeah, so that brings us to 7 o'clock. Obviously, you don't have to stay any longer, but if you guys do have any other questions, I can forward them or CC you onto an email if you want, or even you just contact them directly in the multiple ways they've told you to. I'm sure they're more than willing to answer any questions you have, and it'll make their day too.